Better late than never. All right, I have asked my friend Mary Margaret to please read the preamble.
Good evening. I'm Mary Margaret. I'm an alcoholic, and this is the AA preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of people who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mary Margaret. I appreciate your service every week. And I've asked my friend Ricky T to please read the first paragraph to the forward to the first edition.
Thanks, Eric. Ricky, I'm an alcoholic. This is the forward as it appeared in the first printing of the first edition in 1939. We of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book. For them, we hope these pages will prove so convincing that no further authentication will be necessary. We think this account of our experiences will help everyone to better understand the alcoholic. Many do not comprehend that the alcoholic is a very sick person. And besides, we are sure that our way of living has its advantages for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricky. I appreciate your service, brother. I really do. All right, the following reading is from the forward to the second edition, found at the top of page XX, Roman numeral 20 in the fourth edition. While the internal difficulties of our adolescent period were being ironed out, public acceptance of AA grew by leaps and bounds. For this, there are two principal reasons: the large numbers of recoveries and the reunited homes. These made their impressions everywhere. Of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way. 25% sobered up after some relapses, and among the remainder, those who stayed on with AA showed improvement. Other thousands came to a few AA meetings and at first decided they didn't want the program. But great numbers of these, about 2 out of every 3, began to return as time passed. All right, this is the Walk the Walk preamble. The Walk the Walk is now an hour-and-a-half speaker discussion meeting. This is not a frothy emotional appeal meeting that many experience in AA. This is a solution-based speaker discussion meeting focusing on God, the text, and the 12 steps. If you are not familiar with the solution or you suffer from contempt prior to investigation, we ask that you set aside any prejudice that you may have and allow yourself to open up to the possibility of having a new and possibly profound experience with God or a higher power of your choice. Each week, a qualified guest speaker will share their experience with the text and the 12-step process. A qualified speaker is one who's been led through the 12 steps as they are in the big book and has had a spiritual awakening as a result of that process. Here's some new information. The Walk the Walk now has a Facebook page as well as a YouTube channel. On Facebook, you will find a calendar featuring all upcoming speakers, which is updated regularly, and you will also find recordings of the meetings should you miss a week here. You also find recordings on YouTube should you miss a week here. For those of you that don't have Facebook, I totally repeated this. I'm not feeling well, and I totally did a poor job writing this. For those of you who don't have Facebook, we now have a YouTube channel as well where the meetings will be posted if you missed the meeting, if you don't have Facebook also. I will share these 2 links as well as our email address if you have any questions or if you prefer to receive the links via email. So they're coming to you right now. Love it if you guys would check it out. 2 seconds. Coming to everyone. Boom. There's all that. Thank you very much. And let's see, a quick note about profanity. We don't encourage it, nor do we discourage it. Therefore, you may or you may not hear some. We cannot determine that. We only ask that you do your best to not let it distract you from the message being carried here tonight. And with that, I will hand the meeting over to my brother, Derek, who will introduce our first 10-minute speaker tonight.
Derek, alcoholic, what up, my people? What up, y'all? Y5. Yeah. So, I heard this person speak and I was like, wow, I need to reach out to this person. God will give you that nudge, like, okay, hey, reach out to this person. So I reached out to her. And again, the humility, that she displayed was just wow. You meet people in our fellowship and they have something you want. And that the humility, the calmness, the availability for service is what drives our fellowship. Those are key things that we learn as we go through the process. So I would like to introduce to some, reintroduce to others. Aaron.
Hi, family. I'm Erin. I'm an alcoholic. And yes, I did meet Derek, and I've been going to many, many Zoom meetings lately. So I'm meeting all kinds of people because that life has thrown me some curves lately. So I always go back to the basics when I get the curveballs. And I understand I'm supposed to be talking about 1, 2, and 3, correct? Okay. So I have been sober since 1983 or something like that. Yeah, 1983. And my story, my step 1 story is very simple. It was like I blacked out, wet the bed when I first got drunk, and I blacked out and wet the bed last time. It's like a flat line. And so the powerlessness part, I kind of got it, but I came in the program through a back door. And when I went to AA, the thing that worked for me was people saying to me, you don't have to say you're an alcoholic, you just have a desire to stop drinking. And that's kind of saved my butt because, it took me about a year to actually say the words, but I listened and I went and I listened and I went and I looked at my behavior. And so for me, step 1 was kind of the gradual part where you come to it sort of by using, for me, it was the part about you just have to have a desire to stop drinking today. You don't have to know all the answers. And that really worked for me. The unmanageability part, the powerlessness part, I don't have to worry about too much. Although lately I've been wanting to drink or use something to not feel, because I've lost my job and I'm the main breadwinner, and I'm scared. I don't mind turning my own life over to God, but I don't like having to turn my family's life over to God. I can trust him with me, but I don't like trusting with my kids. That's a harder one for me. But so I'm scared. And so when I'm scared, I go to meetings and I go to the book. So I listen to step 1 through 12 on the readings on the online. I put one on at night while I'm going to bed, and I listen to the guy read it. And I'm always amazed because every single time I hear something new, even though I've been reading this stuff for years and years, every single time I'll be like, oh, I'd never heard that before, or it sounded different. And so I really use that tool all the time. I use the tool of, I Google AA online meetings right now, and it tells you right anywhere to go in the world. And then I use the recordings of the 12 and 12 in the big book. And you can listen to chapter by chapter or however you like it. And so, but the unmanageability part is a hard one still, and is something I have to deal with on a daily basis, just because life on life terms is not always easy. We found out yesterday that my little nephew, 19-year-old nephew, took his own life. So it's been a rough day. And so we're just dealing with that today. Step 2, for me, the step 2 is God is either everything or he is nothing. That's written somewhere in the literature. And I've been going back to that in the past few days, because when I start to get that feeling of being afraid, I just say that in my mind. He's either everything or he is nothing. And right now I'm going to go with everything. And I'm going to go with don't quit before the miracle. And that's always ended up being what works. And as far as step 3 goes, like I said, I do have a faith. I do kind of have a really strong faith. And I always had that, but I never knew how to plug it into my life. And when I got to the room, when I got to AA, I was like, oh my God, this is the practical way to live it in a way that makes sense. It isn't just sitting in a church. It's actually like writing and reading and talking to people and meetings. And it gives you these instructions in the book. You know, this is exactly what to do. And I think my favorite part of step 3 is we are not, God is our director. We are his agents. That whole part and how it works is, I'll be going along and I'll think, oh my God, I'm being the director again. And the part I like the most is, if only people in the play would do as he wished, because that's kind of my thing. If only people would drive like I want and act like I want and do what I want, life would be great. And then it goes on to say, the world and its people were often quite wrong, which I love that, because at least it gives me a minute to say, oh, yeah, they're wrong. But then it says we have to live, in a different way now, where we turn our will and our life over to God. And the one thing I will say about step 1, 2, and 3 is that I've heard a lot in the rooms about, people get on the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's the AA waltz, and you don't go into the other 9 steps. And I had a sponsor that didn't mess around. Like, we went through the steps, we went through them fast. Because now I sit in meetings and people will be like, but taking step 3 means going through 4 through 9. And that's what I keep trying to tell people, my sponsees, is, you do 1, 2, and 3, you kneel down, you ask God to help you, and then you move into 4 right away. And it doesn't have to be, I think it's become, a little bit scary for people, but it's just an inventory. It's just an inventory. It just means you get to look at, and the thing I like about going on to those other steps is it takes you out of being the victim, takes me out of being the victim. I learn to take responsibility for my part. I forgive myself. I forgive others. And that's how I turn my will and my life over, is those steps. And then, so that's kind of, I don't know how many minutes I've been, but like I said, I'm in
So
shock.
3.5 minutes, you're good to go.
Oh, I've only been on. So I'm in shock because of this tragedy. And, I don't even know kind of what to say. We're all kind of, a 19-year-old. And I've seen that happen in the program. You don't take a drink, but then you go out the other way. And I was having a hard time I was down in Mexico for a few days, and, the job thing is scary, really scary to me. And I guess I'm trying to get back into step 3, where I really believe that, not only is there a God, but I can turn it over and things are going to work out. And I don't stay by myself when I'm in these places. I make sure I'm calling my sponsor, I'm calling my friends in the program. And I called a bunch of them today, and I came home to be with my family. And so it doesn't, just being sober for a long time doesn't mean these things aren't gonna happen. But, I went to Mexico, and my friend is there working at the hotel that I go to stay at. And she said, "Are you okay today?" I said, "Yes." "I have enough money in the bank to live today?" "Yes." "Or is there food in the cupboard?" "Yes." And then she was like, "Well, stop. That's it. That's all we have is today. And you don't have to worry about paying the rent next month yet." So I have to have these things told to me over and over. And like I said, I highly recommend listening to those readings, because it just kind of soaks in, especially at night if you're listening, and you hear step 1 and you hear step 2. I listened to step 1 this morning, and it was, it just kind of starts to be something that's available to me when I need it. And so that's how I look at the literature. It's like, if I read it enough, I can pull these phrases out when I need them. like restraint of pen and tongue. And there's certain ones that I really like the director one. So I can't say I didn't want to drink. I was in the airport yesterday going, I don't really want to feel like this, but I also know that I can't afford to do that, and it's not going to make anything better. So thank you. Oh, do I have just one more minute? Well, I'm done. We're good.
I apologize. I know that thing popping up is really abrupt.
No, that's okay. No, I feel like I said I'm good.
Gotcha. Right on. Thank you so much for sharing. And thank you for sharing so honestly and being vulnerable. I mean, it's amazing when you hear about, living this stuff in real time, man, when stuff happens, putting this stuff into practice in the game. That's what this deal is really about. It's not a sideline sport. It's about getting in the game, and you're in the game. And I really appreciate you sharing that. Sometimes you take some hard hits, and I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. All right. Let's see. I lost my opening here. Here we go. All right. AA has a 7th tradition, which states we are fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions, which means AA relies solely on the contributions of its members. We are not currently accepting contributions at the walk-to-walk. Not accepting contributions at the walk-to-walk, but we encourage you to contribute at any open meeting you attend or online at aa.org. And if you don't have a buck for the basket, that's A-okay. We'd rather have your butt in the seat than your buck in the basket. So just keep coming back and stick and stay. We have 2 other meetings throughout the week. On Tuesday, it's the Big Book Revealed. It's a big book study. And on Thursday, the Big Book Trudge, where Bobby and I share the lead, going back and forth studying the big book and sharing our experiences. I am going to put these links for you in the chat box for you all right now. And we would love it if you would come to join us sometime just to check it out. That would be awesome. It'd be a lot of fun to have you there. Okay, moving on. It is time for the Big Book Thumper Stumper. Each week, I will read a sentence or two from the first 164 pages, including the doctor's opinion. I will leave a particular part blank. The first person to write in the chat box the word or words left out becomes this week's Big Book Thumper Stumper champion. All right, where's Derek? Derek, where's your enthusiasm, buddy? Do you feel like you're going to lose? I'm hoping. All right, guys, here are the rules. Spelling does not count. Spelling doesn't count, okay? But if the word is book and you write magazine, you missed it by a mile, you totally blew it. Tim M, you're gonna have to turn your camera on. If you're the Tim M I think you are, I'll accept your question. If you're not, I'm gonna boot you from the meeting. I'm gonna give it 10 more seconds. So, right, it's the word is book and you say magazine. All right, Tim. Did he leave? I don't know. He's gonna, all right. So if the word is book and you write magazine, you missed it by a mile. The other thing is it's got to be in the open. It's got to be in the open chat for everybody to see it. No DMs. Okay. And there is an official chat box. That's my chat box over here. Sometimes they come in as a tie. And on your end, it may say Derek, but it was really Joe P on my end. So we're going to stick with this one. And if you challenge it, I would love that. That would be awesome. I am more than happy to send you a screenshot for that. All right. So here we go. Are you all ready? Here it comes. All right, this one comes from Bill's story. All right. How dark it is before the dawn. In reality, that was the beginning of my last debauch. I was soon to be catapulted into what I like to call the blank blank of existence. The blank blank of existence. Holly, oh my God, did she come in first again? Holly, she is such a superstar, dude. She kicked your butt again, Derek. It's really coming down to a neck and neck between Holly and Derek. Congratulations, Holly. That's fantastic. You are this week's Big Book Thumper Stumper champion. The crown is coming back to you. You can wear that sucker. You can gloat. You can brag all week. You just got to come back next week to defend it. All right, guys. Here we are. It's time to move on to our next speaker. I have heard this woman share before, and she is absolutely fantastic. She's on fire. She's spot on. She knows this program. I know that she keeps this stuff alive and well in her life, and she's going to carry a message of depth and weight. So I'm going to shut up and turn the meeting over to my friend, Kristie A. It's all yours.
Thank you, Eric, for such a wonderful introduction. And first of all, I want to say to Aaron, grief really sucks, and it sucks that your family and you have to go through this and experience that. Sincerely, it's not a good time at all. So with that being said, my name is Kristie, and I definitely belong in this meeting, and I meet group conscience, okay? I have been through the process with the help of a couple of big book step study sponsors. I have made all my direct amends. I have one financial amendment left to make, and a patient and loving God. I forgot that part. And 10 and 11 and 12 are non-negotiable. Not the best of my willingness. That's hogwash. Non-negotiable. I have to do them every day, all day. Otherwise, I cause harm to other people, and that is not comfortable anymore in any way, shape, or form for me. You know, it's funny when Eric was saying this is being recorded and put on YouTube. I'm like, yay, something besides my mugshots.com picture. This is awesome. Like, right? Someone can Google me and find something else. This is awesome. So I thought it was funny. All right. So, you know, I don't do drunkalogs at all. I am a solution-based speaker. But a little bit of background. My mother got sober in 1981. I was 7 years old, and I literally grew up in Alcoholics Anonymous. I have spent almost my entire life in one way, shape, or form in these halls and around these meetings, right? And so the first time I got sober, I was 15. It was 1988. And I pulled 8 years together of sobriety. Some of the most horrible, worst things I ever did was during that 8-year period. I would still lie, cheat, and sleep with your husband. I would cheat on my husband. You know, I was violent in sobriety. I was a rageaholic in sobriety. And, you know, what ends up happening, right? Boy meets girl on AA campus. I stopped going to what little meetings I was attending because I would always go late, show up early. I mean, show up late, leave early. And, you know, never had a sponsor, never did the steps. Those were for you. Those weren't for me. And God was nowhere in the picture of, I didn't even have he wasn't even on the radar in any way, shape, or form. So, you know, after those 8 years, you know, I couldn't draw another sober breath for another 20. And, you know, it got bad. It got really, really bad. I knew I was an alcoholic, right? An alcoholic, for me, I ended up becoming a low bottom drunk, right? And so, you know, I knew that I was an alcoholic because I was sitting at the package store at 8 a.m. up in Cleveland Circle in Boston, waiting for the package store to open up after I just got done my Dunkin' Donuts coffee to get enough coffee in me to talk to the guy at the package store to get my booze, right? And so I knew I was an alcoholic, but I didn't understand what that meant. I never understood what that meant in all the years of going, you know, and being around meetings. You know, until I got sober this time and I had somebody go through the book with me. You know, I am in my normal state. I'm restless, irritable, and discontented until I can again experience the ease and comfort of what comes when taking a few drinks, right? That's my normal state, you know, and then once I consume that alcohol, you know, the phenomenon of craving kicks in and I'm chasing booze. And I'm honestly going to sit here and tell you two things. One, I can't tell you, I do not remember or know when my first drink was taken. I grew up in an era where it was okay to bring your kids to the bar and to give your kids alcohol. And DSS was barely in formation. And I don't know when. I can tell you when I deliberately started drinking, though. I was probably about 12 years old. And I remember being at my friend's Christmas party, and his mom had all these little crystal glasses, and they had wine in them. And the first thing she asked me, do you think your mother would mind if you had some? I'm like, no, the first thing I do is lie, right? That's the first thing out of my mouth, lie. I lie. Now, my mom's sober, right? She ain't having none of that. And so, and the next thing I do is after they do the toast, I don't sip it. I take it like a shot. And then I spend the rest of the time that I was in that house trying to find any glass that still had alcohol left in it so I could drink it. Because I had set off the phenomenon of craving, you know. I admitted that I was powerless over alcohol. Alcohol became my master, just like Bill talks about. I piss my pants, DTing while drinking, blackout, burned every single bridge, annihilated everything worthwhile in my life. I have two adult children that would not speak to me. They had gotten sick of my crap, and sleeping outside became an option. Normal, rational people who are not mentally ill, don't think it's okay to sleep in a tent. Sorry, they just don't. And that became a viable option for me, right? And so my life had become unmanageable. You know, when I was brought through, because certain big book step study meetings read the chapters a little bit differently, but the way we do it, the high-INS method, where it came from, and out of the Cape, because I am from Massachusetts. So we read more about alcoholism, right? And for me, it was a harder pill to swallow that I was mentally ill. But I'm mentally ill. I'm very mentally ill. And so, you know, combined together until I was able to really resolutely accept those two things about myself, there was no hope for me. There was no hope for me. And I don't, like I said, I don't know if I said this yet, but the meeting makers make it message almost killed me. It literally almost killed me. It almost killed me. I'm telling you, I was this close to dying, this close to freezing to death, killing somebody or killing somebody else before I got sober. And my sobriety date is September 16, 2014. So, and I came in, I was 4 months sober, and I started doing this work immediately after I was in a 4-month treatment program. And when I left, I found myself in a big book step study meeting and commenced to do the work. So step 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore me to sanity. Wait for it, wait for it. You hear that? That's my head getting pulled out of my backside so I could come to believe, right? I had to get my head out of my ass. I said it, sorry. And had to really believe that there was something more out there than Kristie, the great I am, right? I had to come to accept I was what I was, and I had to believe that something would restore me to sanity. Now I have to tell you, I have no baseline for anything sing. Zero baseline. Zero baseline. I will also mention, which I forgot to do at the beginning, I also go to Al-Anon and I go to ACA. I have done writing 4-step inventory with Al-Anon, and I'm in the process of doing ACA 4-step writing. So I had zero baseline, zero for what was seen. Never saw it, never experienced it, not a clue, right? So for me, it's being sane for the first time, right? It's being sane for the first time, you know, and then I had to make a decision. And, you know, well, let me back up first, you know, and, you know, it talks about, and we agnostics that, like, you know, I believed in the sunset and the flower, but I had nothing was ever really taught to me, even though my mom was in the program, that there was so much like that was not discussed with me in so many different levels in my life. Like, you know, I was almost like there, but not seen, you know? And so, you know, my mom never really talked to me about God in a real meaningful way or any of that. So I had no baseline, again, zero baseline. And so, you know, so I at least had that small little piece. And I do believe that fundamentally deep down, each and every one of us, you know, there's the fundamental idea of God. And I believe that, you know, what I try to do today is I try to get back to that little human that resides inside of me before the world got her hands on her, right? I try to find that, and I try to be that, because fundamentally that's God. That's God inside of me, and it's a beautiful thing because I have found him, and he's definitely in me. And so I had to make a decision, right? Now, people always have this like lovely debate about decision. Are you making it, what's a decision? Blah, 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 blah. Well, you know what? If decision without action is nothing. It's a futile thought. Decision without action is a futile thought. And so, making a decision, I have to follow it up with some action. I have to do something about it. I have to do the footwork behind it. And God, let me tell you, I would have rather have had a colonoscopy awake than do a 4-step. Straight up, would have rather have gone through that than have to write the inventory that I had to write. I had so much to write about. I had 7 5-subject notebooks full of so many a lot of fancied resentments, a lot of insanity, a lot of perceived craziness. Paranoia is amazing, isn't it? And so, when I went to go do that, well, I did my formal 3rd step prayer. I want to get back to the 3rd step for a second. I did my formal 3rd step prayer with my sponsor, and I didn't have any because prior to that, I had like the 4 months before that, when I got sober and I went into a program, I had that Bill Wilson experience, right? And because I had a lot of warrants when I got sober, and they were all assault warrants, no regular place wanted to touch me and take me. So I ended up in a faith-based program called Teen Challenge, and that place saved my life, straight up saved my life. And, they taught me how to pray, and they taught me to read the Bible and all these beautiful things. But like, I'm reading the Bible, and it's saying in the Bible, like, I got to be loving and I got to be forgiving and I got to turn the other cheek. And I'm like, how the hell do I do any of that? I don't know how to do any of that. I have no clue to even where to begin to start to do any of that. And so, I did the formal 3rd step prayer, and then I began to write. That's how you do that. That's how you find out how to do that, is by doing the writing, right? So I did the cause and the effects, the resentments and the cause and the effects and the turnarounds. And, I had so many profound God whacks. We don't have enough time for me to like go through them all and talk about them all, but I really had, through that process, saw so many things about myself. Like, I have to tell you that I never felt safe, ever. My whole life, I never felt safe. And so most of my reactions, most of my self-seeking behavior was complex PTSD response, which is not an excuse, but now I see that I have this, right? And I know that I have this. So now I have to do something about that, which I do. But I didn't understand, like, how come I was so volatile and so violent and so reactive? And it's because I never felt safe. I never felt safe, And again, I knew I was well on my way when I was able to write a turnaround and say, I completely made this crap up to justify my own behavior so I could be a jerk to somebody else. I knew I was on my way, and I literally wrote that, right? And so another one that I realized, I didn't mind my own business. If I can't begin to tell you how many times I wrote, I didn't mind my own business. If I had just minded my own business, I wouldn't have caused harm to other people in the way that I did, And so I just, so that's that part. Because, well, like I said, I could talk for an hour in regards to that. I just know that I'll just finish this. When I was finishing up doing the turnarounds on myself, because I was the last person on the list, it was God and me last. And I'm writing them out, and I was at a friend's house up in New Hampshire, and it was in the middle of the woods, and I was at the house alone, and I had classical music playing. And if anybody knows the Ride of the Valkyries, it, dun, 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 like in Star Wars, it's in so many like theatrical movies. And I'm like dancing around this house going, because I knew I was done, right? I knew that like it was such a spiritual experience because it literally was happening as I was finishing. It was a riot. So then I wrote my fear inventory. And I never thought I was afraid of anything. And that's a big fat lie. I had 138 fears. Everything from the complexities of the dualities of, fear of failure, fear of success, the paradox stuff, and, some bugs and, heights and all this other stuff. And it was funny because I was terrified of heights, and I'll share this story. And I decided I was terrified of Ferris wheels because my sister would talk me into going on them every time, and she would scare the ever-living crap out of me deliberately every time. And she was one of my biggest abusers. She really just was really cruel to me in so many ways. And so I decided that I was going to find the closest Ferris wheel. And I got in the car and I'm driving there, and about 3/4 of the way there, it was up in Salem, New Hampshire, I realized that I'm going to this same exact amusement park that my mother would take us to her work weekend. They did like their company would take over and have their family outings at. And I was like, are you kidding me? This is so funny. So I got there late, so I didn't have to pay much. I got in, I told the girls why I was there. I told them why I was there. That I just wanted to sit and ride. I paid to get in just to ride this Ferris wheel because I have to overcome some fears, right? I had enough humility to be able to do that. And I got on that Ferris wheel and it did the first loop around, and I had earbuds in, I had Zeppelin going. I had started to come up, and I felt that I would get. And I just breathed and I prayed. And I just kept going around and around, and they never stopped to ask me if I wanted to get off. They never bothered me. I rode that Ferris wheel for like an hour, and I finally had to get off because it was hot, summertime, and I drank a lot of water and had to get off to go to the bathroom. But I'm telling you, that was game changing. I have since ziplined, skydived, I've flown a plane, like the list goes on, And because it says in that part of the fourth step, we commence to outgrow fear. It doesn't happen vicariously. I don't know about any of you guys, but for me, God expects me to do work every single time behind every single thing that I have to learn. Always. It never comes to me easy, ever. And so sex inventory. That is where I saw I was the biggest liar on the planet. I was such a liar. Because there's 10 questions and 3 of them are, did you arouse suspicion, jealousness, or bitterness? And I'd write no, no, and no. And my sponsor was like, why are you writing no on these? And I looked at her, I says, because I never got caught. I was such a liar. And to see the ripple effect of the harm that I caused so many people by my sex conduct, especially my children, who didn't have a choice in the next boyfriend that I brought home to keep a roof over our head. They never had a choice. And the harm that was caused by that alone is pretty big. We actually talk about it now, because my mom like I said, I'm doing ACA work. So I see that like as a generational dysfunctional thing being passed on. And thank God my kids don't do that. They both have healthy, stable relationships. God only knows why, but they do, thank God. And so when it came to my 5th step, to God and another human being, the exact nature of my wrongs, right? I wasn't afraid to say, and I also had a sponsor that checked every single word of my notebook. I wasn't afraid when it came to the 5th step, I was so ready to get it done, and it took me 9 months to read it because I had 5.5 subject notebooks, and she could only give me so much time in the course of a week. And I actually had a changing of the guards during my 5th step, but I continued and I finished to do my work. I didn't let a hiccup, right, prevent me from doing the work. And I finished my fifth step, and I was told, and I had a lot of profound awakenings in that. Like, I'm so codependent. I saw how codependent I was in my fifth step. And so, 6 and 7, those golden lost little two or three sentences in the big book, right? Those golden nuggets, paragraphs, those little short paragraphs, those golden nuggets. Those are the anchor for me to keep neutrality and to keep me grounded, is to be aware of 6 and 7 at all times, right? I took the proposals, I did the formality, went through the first 4 proposals, first 5, excuse me, and spent that hour with God. But until I got into the latter steps and got some time behind me and some distance from my 4th and 5th, 6th and 7th, did I really realize the gravity of 6 and 7, right? As Bill and Charlie, and I am going to quote them in their 6 and 7 recording, if you've never listened to it, I highly encourage you to, that they talk about, in 6 and 7, once something is revealed to you, if you're doing something that you don't like or you shouldn't be doing, and it's revealed to you and you realize that you're doing it and you continue to do it, you're making a choice, because now you know. Now you know you're doing it. So now you know you're causing harm to other people by your behavior. And the gravity of 6 and 7, and I read Drop the Rock, and I've also read The Ripple Effect and all of that. But I got to tell you, if I don't continue to do inventory, if I don't continue to practice and do this work constantly and continue to grow and be willing to go to other programs and to do other inventory, I swear to God, every person in AA should go to Al-Anon, because our life depends on dealing with each other, right? Our survival depends on another alcoholic, and I think everybody would benefit from Al-Anon, But I'm telling you, to have the willingness to continue to grow and to continue to search diligently within myself, to continue to have another level of spiritual experience, 6 and 7, because more will be revealed. More will be revealed. Made a list of all persons I had harmed. I got to tell you, I did not use my 4-step notebook for that. I knew there was a ton of people on my 8 and 9 that were nowhere near, that I had resentments towards. I was not a thief, but I was a vandal, which means I would lie in wait for years to get even with you. If I thought that you had crossed me, I would flatten your tires, I would smash your windows. I didn't care. I would vandalize your property, and I would do the whole entire street. So you didn't know you were being targeted. So you didn't know it was me coming after you, so there was a lot of mess to clean up when it came to, these 2 steps. I have to tell you, I had some beautiful experiences with my 8 and 9. And I also have had a lot of people ignore me, because I have burned bridges in a way that I can't get it back. I can't do it back. And I stand willing and ready if anybody changes their mind. But I had a lot of no's. But I did have this beautiful experience within a former employer that I actually, one of the rare times I did actually steal. And I had it's a greenhouse, a florist place, and I took my car and I filled my car up with a whole bunch of her product, and thought I was entitled to, and I was drunk when I did it, and all that other crazy crap. And so I went in and I had the money to make restitution to her, and I pulled her aside and I was talking to her, and I I knew she knew recovery because I know for a fact who her dad and her brother and one of her sisters are in recovery. So what I was doing, she was not, you know, she didn't have a clue. She did have a clue. So I go and I tell her what I'm there for, and, you know, and that I wanted to make restitution to her, and just got done telling her I stole from her. And she flings her arms around my neck, gives me a big, huge hug, crying. I almost died. I was like, I just told you I stole from you. And then she offers me a job if I wanted to come back and work for her. That's all God. You know, that is all God. And I have to say, I wrote out all my amends. I did it formally. You know, I did my list. I had about 140 people. We narrowed it down. Prayer, you know, living amends, direct amends, financial amends. I did all that. And, you know, I just stole from this woman. And she asked me to come back and work for her. I couldn't believe it. I was blown away, you know? So I have you know, I write everything down before, and I make the attempts before. You know, I just don't go out and bulldoze, because I have to tell you, if you start running out there and telling people, I'm sober now, I'm sorry, you're going to blow your chance. You're going to blow your chance of doing a really formal one where, you know, you sit and you take full responsibility for yourself, and then turn around and ask them, is there anything that I forgot that you would like to share with me? You know, is there anything I forgot? Because I can't begin to tell you how my behavior affected you. So step 10, you know, continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Step 10, continue to take inventory. Well, how do we take inventory to begin with? We place it down in black and white. That's what it says in the 4th step. That's what I do when I have something that my sponsor as my and I do have a sponsor still. I believe you know, I still have somebody I check in with once a week. And so, as she likes to say it, sore and burned up. If you are sore and burned up, you probably should write it out, you know? And I do. But I have to tell you, I don't get sore and burned up all that often, because I really, really, really practice, you know, these principles and live this life. You know, I am one Kristie today. What you see is what you get. The way that you see me now here talking to you, that's how I talk to everybody. That's how I live. You know, there's one me. Either you like me or you don't. If you don't like me, that's not my problem, that's yours. If I don't like you, that's not your problem, it's mine. You know? And I have a right to be here today. And because of these steps, I know this, right? I have a right to be a beautiful human being, because I am one. I've worked really hard to be where I'm at today, you know? So I continue through my day. Keep myself in check, pause, pray, breathe. I don't know how often, if you pay attention to how much you hold your breath through a course of one day, you'll be amazed, you know, or your teeth are clenched. Breathe, remember to breathe. You can't think when you're depriving your brain of oxygen. Breathe, you know? So I continue to take inventory on a daily basis, you know, and sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for his knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. Right now, here's this gets tricky too. People forget, like when you read out of the big book, when it gets to step 11, there's like this 3 sentences, and then it says, these are the questions, these are the suggestions these are the recommendations we suggest. And there's 10 questions. There's 10 more inventory, right? There's these 10 questions that I have to answer every single day. You know, was I resentful? Was I selfish? Was I dishonest? Was I afraid? You know? And I have to tell you, I don't bulldoze through humanity anymore. I care if I hurt people or not. you know, and I'd like to think, you know, that I'm not that hurt person anymore that goes around hurting people just because I'm a hurt person. You know, I try really hard to bring every day, even to my grandchildren. My granddaughter, she knows how to meditate. She does yoga. She's like, she knows the Serenity Prayer by heart. She knows if I'm saying the Serenity Prayer, it's not good. She knows that, like, she better stop what she's doing or she's gonna, I've been taking care of them the last 3 years since COVID. And so, like, yeah, she knows, like, if me saying the Serenity Prayer, I'm in trouble soon. So she usually stops. And so, you know, I have an hour and a half morning routine that I will not deviate from under any circumstance every day. I have done it since I got sober. It started off with 5 minutes and now it has grown into this exponential, you know, life of its own. That does include meditating and praying and reading the Bible and reading the book and doing yoga and, you know, doing my inventories and sending out gratitude lists every day and, you know, and all these things. And I'm connected to another alcoholic every single day throughout the day. And it's really cool because we all have different schedules, right? So like I text a group of people in the morning and I'm talking to a drunk through the whole entire day because people can get back to me when they can or whatever, right? And so, and we also do 3 positive things about ourselves too. And I think that's very critically important. You know, I am not the lie that I was told as a child. I'm not fat, ugly, dumb, stupid. I am not a mistake. And I have value and beauty. And I have something to offer this world. And so don't every single one of us. You know? And step 12, you know, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of doing these steps. You know, I try to carry this message to other alcoholics and to practice these principles in all my affairs. And I do practice them in all my affairs. Like I just said, AA recovery is my life, and it seeps out into all my other areas of life. I don't care who knows I'm sober or not. I don't give a shit. You know, be glad. I always tell people, you wouldn't have liked me sober. I mean, you wouldn't have liked me drinking. You would have wanted nothing to do with me. Absolutely zero. You would have been terrified of me, you know? And so before, when I had those 8 years of sobriety, nobody ever asked me to sponsor them. I wonder why, right? I was a hot mess. Now I sponsor currently 4 women that I'm actively bringing through this work. They're all writing right now, you know, and they are my blessing. They are, I gotta tell you, they're my friends because we are traveling together. We are fellow travelers. I am not above anybody. I'm not below anybody. We are all equals, and they are my friends, you know, because it doesn't talk about in the 12th step in the book, we find a sponsor. No, it says we find friendship and fellowship, right? We find friendship and fellowship. And so I just know how to do the work out of the book. That's it. And then once I teach them how to do it, they'll know how to do it too, right? And so I try to live my life in a way that has depth and weight. Today, I'm employable. Today, I'm a wonderful friend. You know, I'm a wonderful mother. I'm a fantastic, fantastic grandmother. Like, you would all want me to be a grandmother. I have ice cream for breakfast, right? And like no bedtime. And like, you know, I have this cool, she's got it hooked up, like both of them do. I have a grandson now too. So, you know, I've been taking care of them. You know, I went to Puerto Rico by myself. You know, I've been to Maui sober. You know, I'm planning on going on a cruise this February. I have a Harley. It's mine. I have a Sporty. She's beautiful. I get to ride my bike whenever I want, you know. You know, and I've had a lot of things happen to me in recovery, not so great things. I've had some not so great things happen. You know, I'm literally actually right now healing and recovering from spine surgery. It's my 7th surgery in 3 years. You know, I take a cancer drug. Like, I have had these hits, right? I've had these things. And when I tell you, like, my sponsees have been the bright spot in my life, they have been. I had another spine surgery two years ago. I got discharged out of the hospital. The next day I'm on the phone. She's actually on here right now, or she was, with my sponsee. Oh, there she is. And she's reading me her inventory as I'm like, I can't even barely talk because they had to go through and move my esophagus out of the way to get to my spine. So, like, you know, these people matter to me. You know, my next thought is not Kristie. My next thought is other people. But I've also had to learn that I do have a right to be in the equation a bit too, right? I've had to learn to figure out what's good for me and what's not good for me, what's healthy or what's unhealthy for me, what relationships I need to remove, which ones I'm leaving claw marks in, which is not good either. You know, I've had to find that balance of neutrality, being neutral at all times, you know, because we all have other struggles. We all have other things to deal with. You know, I have this giant sized God hole, right? And I want to put anything in it. And so, but sometimes too, that God hole, God is in there, but he also wants you to be in there too. You know? Because he puts you sometimes in the darkest places to bring you forth into the most beautiful light. That's been my experience. You know? And he's always there, and he always has his arms around me, and he loves me with his whole entire heart. And I love him too. And if you had said that to me 8 years ago, that I would say something like that, I would have smacked you in the head, told you were crazy. But I do. I love God with my whole entire heart. And because I love God, I can love me today. And with that, I'm going to end. Thank you, guys.